The beers.
Okay, welcome. Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Books and Beer. My name is Luke Richardson and I've got Jay Tinsiano with me today, joining me for a chat about books whilst we drink some beer, which is always nice. How are you, mate?
I'm good.
Cheers, first of
Got,
all, to fill
got
that up.
cerveza.
The
Cerveza ready to
Cervecia,
go.
that's important.
Cervezia? Is that? My
Oh no,
Spanish was
it's,
never that good. I got the
yeah,
beer moretti
I
as
don't know what
well.
it is in Italian. I imagine it's similar. I've got a Tribune,
Yeah.
which is I think is from quite you're from the southwest, aren't you? Somewhere near there. You
I'm in Bristol. Yeah.
Bristol, right? Not a million miles
Brizzle.
then from a Cornish ale. And if you're having a beer,
Oh yeah.
not you Jay, but you listening at home, if you're having a beer or a drink or a glass of wine or a cup of coffee, let us know in the comments. Are you going sober for today, or are you joining Jay and I on an alcoholic tipple? Let us know what you do, and we'll pop over to the comments in a little while and see how we go. I'm not sure, Jay, if you can see the comments on the side of your screen, but if not, I will click on them and they'll appear on the screen so
Oh
we can have
okay.
a
Yeah, there is
conversation
something
about them.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not used to
it's different.
SteamYard. I think I've done one on this platform, but
So, how many books then have you got out and about? Because you're doing various series, and you're not. I think a lot of authors do this actually, don't they? They go, "Oh, I'll do this series," and then something they think of something, and they go, "Oh, I'll do that series as well, and that series as well."
yeah. Yeah, if I could talk to my former self and go back in time, and I'd be like that. Don't do that. Come on, keep focused. Um, Basically, yeah. I mean, the Frank Bowen thriller series. I mean, that was the first one I wrote. The
Mm.
False Flag, the first one of that. I actually wrote that way back in Thailand, pre-internet days.
Oh, really?
Uh, well, when I say wrote it, I wrote the first half of it, the inspiration of being over there, and obviously that's where it's based. Um, and then this whole universe opened up, and I started working with Jay Newton, and we kind of built this universe or this world, which was the Dark Paradigm sort of flagship series,
Mm.
which is the conspiracy thriller series of books, which turns into an apocalypse,
Mm.
and then you have a kind of post-apocalypse. So it's a little bit experimental, really, very layered, very, very complex. And then we have this kind of mini series, Dark Ops, and all of it is in the same world,
So
so to
the
speak.
the
So
Dark
yeah,
Paradigm and the Dark Ops are in the same sort of world, or are they in
yeah,
the same one as your
absolutely.
Frank Bowen ones as well?
It's
Right.
all in the same.
Oh, that's a
Yeah,
great idea, isn't it?
Frank's stories are kind of in the past, so they're kind of like False Flag is set in 1991, and then Pandora Red is like 1999, and
Mm.
so it's kind of like coming up to date. So there's this big gap in the middle because Dark Paradigm is in the near future, like 4 years in the future or something.
Nice. So you said first
So
of all
yeah,
that you wrote the first one whilst you were in Thailand. Were you living there or visiting there, or what was it about that place that sort of inspired that book? Unfortunately, I've not read it myself yet, but I definitely will.
yeah, it was well, okay, pre-internet, 1991,
Wow.
before you were born, my son. Maybe I don't know. I
Not
mean, it
quite.
was
Not quite.
yeah. uh, yeah, I went traveling with a mate. We went, you know, Bangkok, went down, met a couple more friends in the south, went to sort of place called Krabi,
Hmm.
and was doing that for a while. And then I found myself sort of on my own. My friend went back. I worked in Malaysia for a while designing t-shirts, and then went back to Thailand to get a visa, doing the visa run or whatever it was. And I was on my own in this place, which was deserted. It was just because it was out of tourist season, so everywhere was closed down. And I was just on my own. I just had this big notepad, and I just started writing this story, which became the beginnings of that book.
I
And
love
then I
it.
came back to it about 10 years later and kind of rewrote the whole thing.
That's really interesting, and it reminds me when I was traveling through Thailand and through Laos. Actually, I remember I took a notebook, and I remember one day just sitting under this sort of tin roofed canopy outside a pub, and I was on my own as you've described, and I took the book out and just started writing, and it's never seen the light of day what I wrote there. I'm sure it's on a bookshelf somewhere in my house. And then it started raining midway through, and the sound of the water coming in, and I just remember that, and I was having a beer, a Chang or whatever beer it was at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And actually there's something about that sort of travel experience that can be really inspiring to actually putting pen to paper. It doesn't get a book finished at all,
Yeah, no,
but it
no.
gets a book started.
Yeah, and those feelings, those of being there, and they stay with you, don't they, for years sometimes, of being somewhere in a particular moment. And you just, and it's great to be able to attempt, in my case, to put it into words and try and convey that, yeah, absolutely. So many, obviously, as a typical first novel, so many of those scenes in False Flag happened, were real. Not the guy running away from a train bomb, obviously.
You've just done everything that you've done and like added explosives and sort of turned it up to
basically,
about
yeah.
25.
Yeah.
I love it. Let's have a quick jump over to the comments, Jay, and see who's in there. Let us know, ladies and gents, what you are drinking tonight. Jay and I are having beer. This is Books and Beer. We're talking about books and having beer. And yeah, let us know what you're drinking. You don't have to be drinking anything, that's fine too. Also, this is streamed in different places. So you might be watching on YouTube or on Facebook somewhere, or Facebook somewhere else. You might not see the other comments, so don't think you're on your own. Okay, there are people watching elsewhere. Don't feel shy if you don't want to. Alison says hello. Hi Alison, how are you keeping? Steve Taylor says, evening all. Stephen's normally cooking his sausages about this time. We can't have a beer and books without a mention of Steve cooking his sausages. Fiona says hello. Hi Fiona, great to see you. And Fiona says she's drinking a Pepsi Max, which is a great choice of soft drink, I think. And
hi everyone, thanks for joining.
Alison, yeah. And hey, Vicky Price. Hi, how are you doing? Good to see you. And Steve Taylor's telling us about his dinner, lasagna. Oh, I'm a really big lasagna fan. The Taylors eat pretty good food. I've come to learn over these beer and books podcasts, to be honest.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that interview. Stephen's books look great.
His books are great. Yeah.
Really
He's doing really, really well at the moment. He's got his audio books coming out left, right, and centre, and all sorts. So. Yeah, I'm excited for the rest of the year for Steve. Jay, you hinted off air that there's a story behind Tinsiano, because that's not your real name, is it?
Well, it's one of my pseudonyms. I have to keep many pseudonyms, and keep moving around.
Mostly from the HMRC.
yeah. The police and all that. Basically, it was just my dad's side of the family, Tinson. And it was just, I always used to joke with my dad that he was the Don of the family, Don Tinsiano, and that was it. Basically, back in 2012, when this whole Kindle explosion began, it was just, there was a lot going on in terms of putting work out. I was doing a lot of non-fiction. I was doing marketing guides. That's predominantly my background of like online marketing stuff. And I ended up finding this book that I'd started in Thailand and giving it another go. And it was just coming up with a pen name, and it's just a throwaway pen name. It was just like Jay Tinsiano,
Why not? Yeah, it's a great name, mate. It's great.
Yeah, the good thing is that if you Google it, there isn't really anybody else called that. So, but the disadvantage is, of course, spelling it, and how do you pronounce that? And again, it's one of those things. If I were to go back in time, I might think it differently. Because you need to keep it simple. If you do use a pen name, you should keep it simple and pronounceable and all of that. But again, the .com is available, so
that's another good point, isn't it? It's having that. It's having that .co. Because I got lukerichardson.co.uk, but for my author stuff, I've gone for lukerichardson.author.com because I thought that was, having the author bit there's actually quite good because it makes it very clear that you're onto the right one. Because there's an NFL footballer. Is that NFL footballers? I don't know. An NFL player who's called Luke Richardson. So that adds some confusion. That's right. He doesn't look anything like me. He's about 7'6" and about 300 kilograms. But
Right.
but
it's. I think I will in the future possibly write some fiction under my own name. I might give it a go. It might be a different genre. It might be. I don't know. I really have a hankering for writing some science fiction.
Nice.
Not sort of space opera, but that gritty aliens-esque kind of things coming out of the darkness type of science fiction, where you're isolated and you're alone in space. That kind of is the thriller-esque element to it, without a doubt.
And I don't think there's anything wrong. I mean, I would love, and I've said this on this show. I'm still struggling to call it a show. It feels a bit false to do that. I think a show needs like theme tunes and Anyway, I've said on this before that I quite like the idea of writing sort of a mystery. Like a proper cozy Death in Paradise sort of mystery, and that's quite. It's not 100 miles away from my books, but it's far enough that I think someone who just reads thrillers would think, "Oh, hold on a minute, this is different." But I think you just have to make it clear. I think actually this is a slightly different thing. It's not the same as these other books, Yeah,
I know this is the thing, and I think if you do something like, what say Mark Dawson is doing, is like very much focused on. Although he has started to do the mystery stuff, hasn't he?
But like
very much on, very much focused on the kind of thriller genre and nothing else. And I can totally understand that. That's as building a brand and all of that. But I just going back to why we spoke earlier about why Dark Paradigm has taken so long is because of other projects. One of those projects was for the Dead Silent box set we did with a load of other authors recently.
Oh yes, of course, you were in that, weren't you? Because I spoke to Michelle the week that was out, and that was before you guys were USA Today best-selling authors. So congratulations on that one. That's great news.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it was. It was great to find, to see it happen, and it was really,
and it was
definitely.
It was a real feat of organisation. I'm not sure who was the driving force behind it, but I first heard about that in about September, so it was a real thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's Margaret Daly at Rukia Publishing and Sandra Woofington, who's the lead kind of author who put it together, and a load of everybody else. It was huge. It was quite an experience. I don't think I helped out where I could. I probably could have done more, but there was a lot of stuff to do, a lot of admin, behind the scenes, organisation, but it was a real kind of eye opener into how it works and how to create a bestseller box set. Basically that was the sole aim of the project. Was we're going to do, we're going to become a USA Today bestseller, even though it's a box set and.
Oh, it's fantastic!
And Amazon
it's a real,
as well.
But that's it's just giving sort of the standard publishing model like a run for its money, isn't it? When 10, 12, what is it, 15, 16 authors, whatever, club together to do something like that. It's a real powerhouse sort of approach, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think anything like that, it's power in numbers, isn't it? Because you've got the multi-author promotion, you can sort of, collective energy. But yeah, it was interesting. The actual novella that we wrote for that was more of a police procedural type thing as well. So we kind of strayed a little bit, and it was more kind of, you had to get the thinking caps on there for sure.
So that was you and Jay Newton again on
Yeah,
that
that's
one.
right. Yeah,
One
yeah.
of yours.
So
Because
hopefully that will.
you had to write a
Sorry.
book that was not previously published. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was a brand new project.
Yeah.
So we took a character who appeared in False Flag, who was a detective in Hong Kong,
Nice.
who was, yeah, Doug Brown, who's come back and retired. So Blood Tide was the first one, and this would be the second one in that little novella series. Yeah, again, another series distracting from the main thing, you know.
That's it. When I spoke to Ty last week, because he does 3 series, I think, or even 4, and he says actually he saw it another way, which I think was brilliant. He said actually that's what keeps him to being able to produce books as quickly as he does, because he does one on one series, then he can move over to the next, then back round, and it keeps it fresh the whole time because he's always working with different characters. And actually, I can see that as well, that idea of doing that. I'm not sure it would work for me because, you know, it did seem very intense, but I can definitely see that sort of speed. Is that how you tend to work things, or are there series now that you've sort of left aside for a couple of years whilst you're focusing on one, or do you just go around, scatter around all over the place, you know?
Yeah, it's been a scatterbox of, it's all kind of working towards the same event, and it's all in the same universe. So Frank Bowen's series is in the past, as I said, and Dark Paradigm is in the near future, and then Dark Ops, which is like a mini series, is all in the same world. So we did jump between, I think I did, so we had Black Horse, which is the third in the Dark Paradigm series, which has been kind of pushed aside almost 3 or 4 times now for other projects. So yeah, it's a little bit mixed, really, but it keeps it interesting, you know.
That's the important thing, isn't it? You are, when you're an author like you and I, in that we work predominantly with one other person or ourselves or 2 other people, like your deadlines are self-imposed, so you've got to be inspired to do it, or you just wouldn't. You'd just be like, no, you know, there's no cash advance, is there? There's no money riding on it until you've actually got that book out. So you've got to be motivated to actually write the thing, haven't you? You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is the thing, isn't it? It's, as you know, we're generally, you know, indie authors or whatever. We kind of, we're producing the work, we're writing the content, and we're doing everything else that a publisher would normally do. So, you know, it's like an extra step for sure. But I love both sides of it, and you know, I'm working towards a routine where it's kind of doing a few hours writing and a few hours on the business, you know, that kind of thing, and I just build towards it.
Do you know? Have you noticed how? Do you know how your readers sort of move through the series? Do you know at what book? You know, do you advertise one particular book and then sort of send them to another? But have you got an understanding of how different readers read different series, or does everyone read everything, or do you have some readers that just read one series and some that read another? You know.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of so-called funnels in, like False Flag. It's been free, it's perma-free for a while now, and I kind of put it in book funnel giveaways and stuff like that. Then there's a couple which Pale Raid, which is a short story, and another one I wrote, Virus Vault, which I use as a kind of funnels into the Dark Paradigm newsletter, which is more kind of it's more speculative sci-fi thriller type stuff. That's our publishing imprint. So yeah, it's kind of, there's people that go in via like Flight 313, which is the Dark Ops thing, and those other ones, and then False Flag is the Dark Paradigm, the Frank Bowen series. So it's a mixed bag. But as you know, like with the data in terms of what Amazon give you and what you're allowed see and all of that, it's very hard to kind of know. And I have to admit, I don't have a nailed down system for following.
It's so hard, isn't it? Because also people drop in at different stages and drop out at different. There's no way you can know really that.
Yeah.
You just got to try.
I think. I think like. Yeah, I suppose if you had trackable links on the end of each book, which went, I think reader links.
It would be a real feat of engineering to put that together, wouldn't it? A feat of administration to work out. We'll pop over to the comments in a moment. Thank you for joining us for Books and Beer. This is absolutely amazing to have this conversation. I'm interested, where are you listening from, watching from today, and what are you drinking? Are you joining Jay and I on the beers? I'm on a Tribute, which is a beautiful Cornish beer from the south west of England. I've got another one to go in a minute, or a Banks, in fact, a Banks Amber. Here we are.
Beer Moretti I have. I've got a Jim Beam, but that's just backup. I'm not an alcoholic.
That's a worthy backup, that is. If you can net quarter of a bottle of Jim Beam in an hour's conversation, mate, it will go very, very quickly. Alison is on the McColl's Brewery Dutch Milk. I like that. I've had, because McColl's Brewery, Alison's a Flavorly supporter, like myself, which is like a beer. Have you heard of Flavorly, Jay? It's like a beer subscription thing. No. It's like a beer subscription. You pay a certain amount a month, and they send you a box of beer. And I think that was one of the ones that's in there. It sounds lovely, Alison. Is it dark? I'm assuming. Martha, who's my wife to be. We don't use the word fiance. My wife to be, listening from Nottingham, drinking coffee. We learnt yesterday. I said in my mailing list, Jay, that we learnt yesterday. Our wedding was booked for the 10th of April, and Boris, the esteemed Prime Minister of our country, has allowed weddings to resume from the 12th of April. So we've missed it by 2 days.
So everything's booked in. You can't change it.
Well, it'll be changed. It's not our fault. They're pretty. Okay. The venues have been really good, to be fair. But it is frustrating for us that we're going to have to do it.
Yeah. Wow.
It can't be helped.
Congratulations, anyway.
Thank you. Of all the things, it's a small one. Of all like this, the inconvenience people have had. Ian
is Ireland.
Yeah, Ian from Devon. Tribute is my favourite, but he's on the squash. Tribute is lovely. That's not too far from you. You're quite close. Fiona says hello to Martha. Fiona's listening in Ireland. Yes, you got some lovely beers in Ireland, Fiona, to be sure. So
I was born, Cork Island.
What were you? Wow.
Yeah.
Have you got an Irish passport?
I have.
Yes, good man. Keeping in the EU.
Yeah, it's I don't know how I got it together, but I did.
This conversation has taken a political slant. I didn't intend for that.
Yeah.
Fiona says, "Are you actually drinking Guinness right now, Fiona? I'll be impressed if so." I'll be impressed if so. So, love Jay, do you? What's the process of writing a book for you? Are you I mean, in the writing terms, we call them plotters or pantsers or discovery writers or planners or whatever. But does the book, do you sit down with a blank page and just go, or do you write it out in some way before, or what?
Yeah, so definitely pre-planning. I think when we started planning out the Dark Paradigm series, me and Jay Newton, we collaborated on this kind of back of a mirror with loads of sticky notes.
Yes.
So it could be put away, kind of thing. But yeah, it was definitely planned out with timelines and like a mad conspiracy kind of blackboard of like all these things, with strings going different directions. But mainly because it was such a complex plot with lots of different character POVs and lots of things happening, particular things happening at certain times. So yeah, I have loads of notepads because I like to do the initial notes. I think there's something about writing that connects you with, writing with a pen and a notepad, and it, I think I don't know, I'm old school, so I definitely do the initial kind of notes and planning and stuff like that. So I've got piles of notepads with all these ideas, some of which you look through years later and you just discover all these little gems of atrocious ideas.
Or unintelligible scribbles about whatever. Oh, are you there?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I thought you'd frozen for a second then, but you. I think you cut out for a moment there, or you did to me at least. Yeah. So you've got that like blackboard or whiteboard of different sticky notes and all that sort of thing, of different plot points, and you're sort of doing them together. Then does that make its way digitally for a plan, or is that just then sit down in front of word processor and go for it?
Yeah, so it's Google Docs we use because it's real-time collaboration.
Oh right, that's a great idea.
Yeah, so it's literally the act 1, 2, 3 or whatever, all the chapters, and then we start to kind of, usually it preceded by lots of discussion and stuff like that. I'm talking about when I'm collaborating, but obviously it's the same process really if I'm just doing on my own book or whatever. But yeah, it's very interesting. So you can leave comments on that and all of that, and then so that generally it's fleshed out. Jay Newton will do the beats, kind of detailed beats of what's going on in each chapter or scene, and then I will go in and write, and then we kind of both go in and kind of flesh it out. And the process is similar if I'm doing my own thing, but yeah.
Do you find writing with someone else makes the process quicker or slower because you've got to sort of discuss everything? Or does that weed out the bad ideas, or not the bad ideas, but that finalizes the idea quicker because someone just goes, no, that doesn't work, rather than you thinking about it for 2 weeks and writing it and then realizing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I know it's a really interesting question because I think generally it's probably a little bit slower. I think there's a lot of to and froing. But I think the product or the story ends up being a lot better for it because as you say, there's a lot of discussion and going for the scenarios. Obviously you could do that yourself, but I don't know. I think it's just having a sounding board. I quite enjoy. So yeah, no, obviously mainly collaborate with the other Jay, and I've collaborated with Stephen Moore as well.
Yes, I'm going to ask you about Steve. New book with Steve, yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully that'll be back on track at some point. So yeah, it's kind of it's an interesting process, and it's definitely organized chaos.
Yes.
So.
It is good because Steve and I are writing a series together, as I think you know.
Yeah.
And we've been working on it for a long time. It's taken, just with anything, book writing takes a long time. To be fair, good book writing, when you really put in the hours,
Yeah.
But hopefully in the next couple of months, we have fleshed out a preliminary release date, although I'm not going to share it with you today, but it's not that far away. But yeah, it's but we're going to release them quite quickly. But you wrote one, didn't you? The first one, and then there's going to be more to that series, though, isn't there?
Yeah. So with Arc, yes, as all plans, they're made to be burned and destroyed. So basically, the plan was to do what you're doing, was to do 3 books and have them ready for the kind of successive release, to do with the Amazon algorithm thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Obviously it was around when the pandemic all hit, and it's the book's about a pandemic, and we brought it out, and
I see. So you weren't intending to bring it out at that time. You just thought,
well, it was
bloody hell, this is convenient, and just went for it.
Schedule. Yeah, well, it was, yeah, it was kind of like, it was just kind of like, just throw it out there and let's see what happens. And it was a freaky time. Alison,
Yes, it was. I can put
definitely.
that comment on.
Yeah, it was
Alison
weird
says
because
that
it's all
was
set on,
art came out at freaky time.
but it's all set out on a cruise ship as well, which is, there was this big thing about cruise ships, wasn't there?
Mm.
Being stranded and stuff. So yeah, it was really interesting. It was all just very weird. So yeah, but I talked to Steve recently, and there are plans afoot to book in time to look, because there's two other books planned. Obviously, there's a whole story there, and it's left on a massive cliffhanger.
Mm.
So we need to finish that series, and it was great to write. I really enjoyed, the whole, yeah, writing, developing that. It was really good.
It must be nice to work with, because you've worked on your own, then with Jay, and then with Steve. It must be nice to see how different people have different processes. Because I know I've worked on my own and then worked with Steve. I know that my process has got better for working with Steve, because he's shown me things that I think, that's such a great idea. Why don't I do that? Because when you start to write, no one really shows you how to do it, do they? You just sort of you sit in a pub in Thailand and pick up a pen and have a go. You think, I can write, I can do this,
Yeah,
But
yeah.
actually someone talking to someone about that, I thought was really helpful.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. You have to learn from as many people as you possibly can, and it's writing is you never stop learning. You must never. I feel like I haven't even touched my potential in terms of what's in here. Not just ideas, but stuff I want to convey and characters and all of that kind of thing. And it's just, yeah, you have to keep on it, keep learning, keep training yourself and reading and, well,
Yeah,
listening as I am. I've got my Audible going at the moment, so I'm listening more than I'm reading. But yeah, kind of, keeping on it really.
that's it. Just keeping listening to stories and thinking sort of about how they come and how they go together and all that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we
absolutely.
talked a minute ago, and we will come back over to the comments in a couple of minutes. So if you're new to the chat, if you've just dropped in, welcome to Books and Beer. Hello. But let us know where you're listening from and what you're drinking, because Jay and I are on the beer, and we're going to come over to those in a minute and see how everyone's getting on. But you talked about Arc coming out just as the pandemic happened almost a year ago now. But you write conspiracy thrillers, so there must be. I mean, a good conspiracy thriller has to be believable, doesn't it? It has
Yeah.
to be. There's something about it that makes people go, "Oh, that could be true." How much are yours based in reality, and how much are they? I asked the same question to Michelle Midhat when she was here a couple of weeks ago. Actually, how
Yeah.
much are yours based in reality, and how much are yours fictional?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think it's that delicate blend of taking ideas out there that are so-called conspiracy theories or whatever. But I mean, basically, so what we spoke about earlier was the Malaysian flight that went
Yeah,
missing, and there was a
313
story
was it?
behind. Yeah, there was a story behind that. That half the people on the plane were from this company that created a semiconductor or something, which was like really
Oh,
kind of military grade type thing, and blah blah blah. Really interesting stuff. So yeah, it's taking that kind of idea and running with it,
yeah,
basically.
yeah,
Um, and there are the Frank Bowen series does touch a lot on conspiracies in the sense of like intelligence services and
mm,
things like that. Um, and we push it a little bit further in Dark Paradigm as well. So they all have elements of. There's a lot of research I've done. I did about 2-3 years research before I started throwing ideas down.
wow,
But yeah, it's kind of, again, it's a bit of a rabbit hole.
mm,
Stuff is going on in the world, but it's just kind of you either get on with your life or you just bury your head in the sand. It's just
that's
the
it,
way it
isn't
is.
it? I,
But yeah, I mean, in terms of stories, there's there's amazing stories out there. If you start digging around, it's just incredible. So yeah, it really helps the fiction ideas, definitely.
We'll talk about your research process in a minute. Let's have a quick look and see what people are talking about in these comments. So we've got R.H. Braun in Michigan. It's noon for in the USA, and he's drinking coffee, which is a good choice at noon.
Good choice at noon, yeah, definitely.
I'd be absolutely right.
Vicky's having a drink.
Vicky is. We're getting a drink. Good work, Vicky. And I'm talking about noon in the USA. I'm trying to get a couple of American authors. I've contacted them and said, can you join me? But for them, it's the middle of the day, so it's just not as convenient,
Yeah.
But there you go. We'll see. Some will be able to. So Alison says she still enjoyed reading it. I think she's talking about Arc, which came out at Freaky Time. Fiona says her father worked for Guinness. We'll raise a glass.
Oh, well, excellent.
Yeah.
It's not Guinness, but
yeah.
I'm sure.
And I think there was another message from R.H. Braun. There we go. Science fiction to thriller convert. I actually started avidly reading when a classmate gave me a copy of James Blush's The Seedling Stars. Still have that mouldy old 1959 paperback on my shelf. I love that, how one book sort of given to you can change your reading and perhaps your writing. I don't know, RH, but I assume you're writer yourself. So that idea that, that can inspire your whole future, just one gift of a book,
Yeah, and I love those old paperbacks, those old pan editions. My mum's, who's in Ireland, is actually a bit of she kind of doesn't throw stuff away, let's put it that way, and there's a lot of books piled up everywhere, and I keep finding old editions, old science fiction classics, Corgi, and all that kind of stuff, Corgi editions and stuff like that. Yeah, it's great stuff.
It is, isn't it? Because I think like now books are so sort of transient. Like owning a book is, in our digital age, and this maybe sound a bit meta, like you own a book and then you forget about it. Like I read probably 60-70 books in the last 12 months. I can probably remember the title of about 4 of them, because I just read and I think the idea of it being on the Kindle as well, you don't see the cover very often, do you? You just pick it up and you just read, and you're always reading. You finish one, you're straight onto the next one, And I don't remember the last time I read a book twice. But 50 years ago, that wasn't the thing, was it? You got a book, or even less. I've got books on the shelf behind me here. You buy a book and you have it, you read it, you enjoy it. It goes on the shelf, and then that's like a pride thing. Like, this is a book that I've actually read. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, and the tangible objects. It's I don't think they're ever going to go away. These sort of paperbacks. And it's like how vinyl came back and everything, isn't it? Yeah, it's interesting. I used to, way back, again, pre-internet, write and publish comics. So actually, I used to do comic strips, and that was where I first
like you were the artist.
I was the artist and writer. So myself. Another guy called Luke, who was the co-editor, and we wrote like a sort of ongoing series. So this is kind of like staying up to 3 a.m, drinking beers, and the kitchen table being covered with notes and all of that. That's my first real experience of putting a story together in that fashion. It's amazing. But the comic we produced was like, that kind of comic book size, American comic book size thing. We did 3 issues. We were in ID magazine and stuff like that. We got distribution in the States.
So would you print them, have a box of them, and then mail them out yourselves, or
we had boxes and boxes. This is again pre-print on demand.
Yeah. So you had to do a print run of 1,000 or whatever, Yeah.
But I showed So I showed a friend who's kind of, I don't know, who's in the bit younger than me, like mid-20s type of thing, like these old comics that I used to produce. And they were just amazed by the fact that there was these adverts with no web addresses, no emails. It was just like things like that, and the
Yeah.
comic, the whole
Go to your
feel of
news
it.
agent and buy this. You know.
No Twitter, no mention of anything. It was just like there's an advert for some artist with a phone number, and that was it. Because we used to sell advertising for it. So
Right, I
yeah, it
see in
was.
the back of the comic or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So
that's a
it's just
massive
yeah,
undertaking
it's
then. To have,
yeah. Well, I've always loved publishing. I've always been very passionate about it. I used to do what we called zines. So we used to draw them, photocopy them, and then I think I was about 14 at the time, and take them around shops, and they would sell, sell or return, comic shops sell these. I went down to London. Then we started doing other stuff like merch, T-shirts, and stuff. So, but it was just the idea of creating stories and putting them out there. So yeah, it was good stuff. And hopefully one day we'll revisit comics and script writing, in that sense as well. Actually,
what do you do with your books in terms of print? Then you obviously do them through Amazon Print. Do you do other print options too? Do you do sort of, because I love the idea of doing special editions and all these sorts of things, which I haven't explored yet because I don't know anything about it, and I think it's a bit of a rabbit hole to go down. But I
yeah, I'd
reckon it'll
love
be
to
good fun.
Yeah, no, we only do the Amazon print and the Ingram Spark. So for the bookstore distribution, just paperbacks. But I know that they do the option for hardbacks, and
Yeah.
I think there is a vague plan, when we get to book 4, Dark Paradigm, to do like a special edition type of thing with all 4 books,
Yeah.
some kind of actual physical box set, or some kind of something which makes them a little bit special, But I haven't done any. Like Jonah Penn talks about large print as well and things like that. They're all like valuable, in the market. So
Yeah, I've got something to show you here, which I got this week. Which I've not shown anyone in reality. This is the Leo and Alyssa books 1 to 3. Look at this.
Oh, nice.
Size of that beast.
Excellent.
900 and something pages.
Yeah.
No, not that big. 750 pages. Yeah, absolute wedge. If you need to get up.
Yeah.
I am going to do a beer and books at some point, and I think I'll give this away because I think it'd be a cool prize.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Well, I've got one for the Frank Bowen books, the first 3 books, a print edition, like that, and it's really good to do little kind of competitions and giveaways and stuff with it. But yeah, it's like, it's great to have all that, and it does pretty well in terms of people, like, if they haven't come across your series, they can just buy the first 3 books.
That's it,
and
isn't it?
The audio as well.
Yeah, that's it. I've just done the audio books recently, and it's been good fun. They're up now. They're ready. Well, they're in the process, going through the works. I know it takes a little while.
And you're doing your own.
It takes a little while.
You're doing your own narration, aren't you?
Yes, yeah, which has been really cool. I've really enjoyed sort of going back through the books and listening to and experiencing them as a reader as well as having written them. In fact, Kotao is, I've put the audiobook for Kotao as free, so that can be downloaded for free. I've got the link. I'll put it on the screen actually.
So you did.
There it is.
So you do narration, and then you do it through. Obviously, it's not through ACX, is it?
No, I do it through Findaway Voices, and then ACX goes through that, so they just distribute it for me. But yeah, it's. But this is, you can download that directly from the website. We're not talking about my books specifically, but have you done audiobooks for yours, Jay?
Yes. So the first 3 Frank Bowen ones. So they're on Audible and Amazon and Apple. It was just the whatever the exclusive deal is with them. So yeah, they're on Audible. Frank Bowen, and they're also as a box set. So the three books together as Audible as well.
Yeah.
And another Doug Brown novella, but we stalled a bit with the Dark Paradigm, which we couldn't find the right narrator for it. And we kind of, because it's multi-POV, we're kind of wondering whether we should just wait until we got the resources to do it with different narrators.
Different voices.
I love the idea, you know, what the Audible productions where they bring in sound effects.
Oh,
and
they're
it's like,
so good, aren't they? Yeah.
you know, having something like that would be just amazing. You know,
Yeah.
I'm kind of holding back, hoping that maybe when the series is finished, that we can do something really special with it.
I really love how things are sort of audio. This resurgence in audio, I love, because I've always enjoyed audio. I loved the radio when I was younger. I loved listening to audio books when I was younger, when they actually came on tapes and CDs and this sort of thing. And then Audible, I've had for 3 or 4 or 5 years, something like that now. I got my missus into Audible last year, and she has now rinsed through every book that I've ever owned on there in a year. So she just listens to them back to back to back.
Excellent.
It's just great. And I like now that this has sort of gone back to, like, do you remember War of the Worlds, the radio version of that back in the 50s, whenever it was, when it
one that caused all the panic.
when it apparently caused people panic, that they thought this was a real news report, you know. And now people like yourself and myself could, time permitting, and with the right know-how, actually produce that. You know, there's nothing to say that you couldn't hire a couple of voice actors and get them to do their various parts and stitch it together on a software and do. I mean, it's the time, isn't it? That's the thing. Would you be better writing another book? Perhaps so, but it's within the realms of possibility, without loads of technology and loads of extra things, you know, that you might need.
We have been tempted to play around with that, or at least experiment with it. But it's just I don't know. There's been a lot of discussion about concentration of effort on particular things, and it's kind of like, what do you focus your time on?
And that's the key thing, really.
Having said that,
making sure
doing is like narrating.
Sorry, mate, you cut out.
Yeah. Maybe the connection's going. Is that better now?
Yeah, all good. Just for a moment, I missed that last word or the last couple of words.
Yeah. So my internet is.
Oh, you're gone now. I can't hear you. I can hear you. I can see that you're talking, but can't hear what you're saying. That's all right. I can talk to myself until you to everyone else. Yeah. There we go. I think you're back.
Am I back?
Yes.
Back in the room.
Back in the room.
So, what was I saying? You're building a brand with your voice, almost, when if you doing your own narration, because people connect with you more. You know, they connect with your voice, don't they? So, I think the idea is a really good.
That's what I thought, and I thought that even though I won't do as necessarily as good a job as like a professional narrator with all the different accents and all the different things, I thought I'd make up for that by the fact that it's me doing it. Do you know what I mean? I think because I do these sorts of things, and I'm already talking to people quite a lot. I think as a listener, I would feel a little bit sort of strange if you heard me on here and then you went to buy my audiobook and it was someone else. Like, you know what my voice is like because you've seen me on Facebook Live or YouTube Live or whatever, you know. So I feel like that's an important sort of thing to.
We found. I thought he did a great job as Chris McDonald. He's sort of British actor, and based in Hollywood. He'd done some BBC plays and he'd done some really good, interesting stuff. So he agreed to do it. It was really good. And
wow, that's great.
but
And he
it,
did the first few of the first couple of books that you wrote. He did your audiobooks.
yeah, the Frank Bowen ones.
The Frank Bowen ones, yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So yeah, I don't know whether I would have a go at it or not. But I might have a go at some short stories or something.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's just to give it a try. I mean, I did Kathmandu about a year ago, and I looked at it again last week whilst I was in the recording sort of mode, and thought about recording it again because I've changed my studio setup. I've changed the way it sounds. I'm a bit more practiced. The book has changed because I've re-edited it, and I just listened through and I just thought, no, I'm not going to. Like, if you listen to the audiobook now, you get a slightly older version of the book. But I think that's okay. I'm content with that because it's still a great story. I'm still pleased with it. I really like the narration. I think I did a good job of it a year or so ago, and I think it's like anything. You can agonize over making it perfect, can't you? But actually, you've just got to make it as good as you can, and people will enjoy that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've noticed, I don't know if it's my end, the internet seems to be getting worse.
Well, we're almost at the hour anyway, so if it cuts out, we'll leave it at that. But it seems to be all right. Let's just pop over to the comments and see what everyone is talking about. If you are watching us on YouTube or Facebook, don't be a stranger. Say hello. It's lovely too, unless you want to watch quietly, which is fine also. Fiona's being very complimentary. She says, I love you reading. Thank you so much, Fiona. Alison has offered volunteering, Jay. If you want someone to do the female voices in your books, she's up for it. So there you go. There you go. Send her the script. She'll get it done by Monday.
Yeah. Thank you.
Alison says, I loved War of the Worlds.
You need an orchestra as well for the
That's true, isn't it? Because they did the full orchestral thing as well, didn't they? Full orchestral thing. And Alison says the accent needs to be in character. I listen to some audio that have a broad northern accent when they're meant to be East End London. Yes, I know what you mean. Like because I've been thinking about perhaps, and I haven't decided whether to or not, to approach other authors and offer to do their audiobooks for a fee, obviously, to pay for my time, because it is time consuming. But it would have to be the right project. It would have to be, I couldn't do CIA, American, Washington based, New York based, whatever. Like, it wouldn't work. It's not how I sound. But if it was a project that suited me and it was a book that I really enjoyed, perhaps so. But yeah, I haven't quite decided yet. Yeah, I agree with you. Jay, it's been fantastic to have this conversation with you. We'll say goodbye.
Good to catch up.
We'll say goodbye to everyone here, and then we'll have a quick conversation. So don't disconnect yet, unless the internet is against us. Just stop around where you are. Thanks so much for tuning into Books and Beer. It's lovely to see you. If you're watching this afterwards, still put a comment on it. Notifies me to say that you've done that, and I really do love to have that sort of two-way thing. Otherwise, sometimes it's just us talking, which is great, but it's nice to know that you guys are there too. I'm back next week with Dan Parsons, who's a great author and a good friend of mine who's joining me for this chat, and that'll be really cool. Really nice to catch up with him. In the meantime, you can still download my Kotal, I've said that there, haven't I? My Kotal audiobook for free right there, which I'm really, really proud of, and we've talked about that. I did that myself. And you can download Jay's book. What was what one would you recommend people go to, Jay, if they're new to you?
Yeah, False Flag is free to download on Amazon.
I'm going to add that to my Kindle straight away and read that in the next little while, because it's one I haven't. And it's Jay Tinsiano, False Flag. No, I mean, if you just put Jay Tinsiano in, we can find that. And in fact, I can put it in the comments. I'll
Yeah.
put it in the comments as soon as we're off the thing, and then we can click on that.
Yeah,
So,
thanks.
thanks so much. I'll see
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
I'll see you soon.